just feels incredible to see something that no one else on the planet has seen, or to just share that discovery on the ocean, really. I was looking for a PhD years ago, like maybe 20 years ago now. Um, and the one that I was looking at fell through. Then I started to think about what actually would be interesting and important to study, something that I was super passionate about, and then went down the crazy road of pygmy seahorses, basically. Yeah, the pygmy seahorses are an incredible group. There are now 8 species, and I named the last 2 of them with colleagues. And we named that in 2018 as Hippocampus japapigu, the Japanese pygmy seahorse. I've since named one from South Africa, which is the first one from the whole Indian Ocean. I found the first case of polyandry in a seahorse. We've always known all seahorses are like faithfully monogamous, which is very unusual in nature. But I found that in these pygmies, because they're stuck in these little groups, their whole adult lives in these little groups on sea fans, that they sometimes are a bit sexually promiscuous, shall we say. And I found one female mating alternately with 2 different males, which is exciting if you're in the world of seahorses. Most of the pygmies we know very little about. We're finding more and more every day. So yeah, it's really fascinating. But because they're so tiny, that's so difficult to collect data on them. People don't always know what we're losing. So many different species on coral reefs, like interaction, symbioses, predation, it's just fascinating.